I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. You are with Stephen Basita on my podcast, Get It. And today my guest is Christine Ajisafe. And so a little bit about Christine real quick here. She is a woman with many, many talents. And so getting back into one of my big things that I love to push is women that are out there accomplishing things, making a mark in the world, in whatever industry they're in, or just where their path is leading them, and just giving women a platform for other women to be inspired and empowered. I am a girl dad, and my life is run by women, and I just want to continue to help give women a voice. And so my guest today has quite the journey, and I'm excited to have her on today. And so let's just get into it. I would love to have you just walk everybody through where you were born, where you grew up, walk us through coming to where you are now and your journey. I'd love to hear about it.
Awesome. Okay, well, you asked for it because it might get a little confusing. So I was born, hi everyone, I was born in Nigeria, and I was actually born 2 months early. And one of my sisters tells me that I was born in such a ramshackle hospital that they didn't have incubators and they just covered me with a bunch of blankets. I don't know if that's true. My siblings can be trolls sometimes. And neither of my parents ever confirmed that. But my sister, that's what my oldest sister claims. So I was born 2 months early. So I was in Nigeria for about 6 weeks. And then I moved to London. And that's where I was raised until I was in my early 20s. So I was in London. I played a lot of sports. My dad, I was fortunate enough that my dad passed away about 3 years ago. My dad was able to put my siblings and I through private school. So we had a pretty good education and we played a lot of sports. I went to college in England, and then when I was about 22, I moved to New York to study acting. Okay. So I have like many, many lives. I moved to LA about 8 years ago. When I first moved to LA, I was still acting. And then one day I was scrolling through my Instagram and I saw a before and after picture of someone. And the before picture, there was nothing really wrong with them looking back. And their after picture, they just had like a lot more muscle. I mainly remember abs. You know, that was before I worked out. So I just remember seeing abs and I was like, wait, I didn't know that was possible, that you could just like change your body like that. You know, it never occurred to me. I was one of those females who thought that if you lifted weights, you would just get really big. And I had this story that I built muscle really quickly. And that's a lot of, I have a lot of female clients who first come to me and they say that to me too. And I actually have yet to train someone who actually does build muscle that quickly. Oh, no, there's one person. So we always have this idea sometimes as women that we're going to get really big really quickly. And I used to think that about my legs until I started trying to get big legs, and I realized that that was far from the truth. So anyway, I started working out then, and I fell so completely in love with it that I was dreaming about it every single night that I'd go to bed for like 3 months. I had a clear idea of what I wanted my body to look like, and I started working towards that goal. I got into bodybuilding, and I've been a bodybuilder for about maybe 5 or 6 years now.
Okay.
The thing is that I had this idea that bodybuilding was going to fix all my problems, and it was going to bring me so much love and adoration. It was my I'll be happy when goal. And I think that many of us have that, like, I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds, or I'll be happy when my business is bringing in 6 figures. I'll be happy when, and bodybuilding was my I'll be happy when. And it turns out that all of the things that I thought would happen when I hit a certain goal didn't actually happen. It didn't make me more confident. It didn't make me happier. It didn't make me more popular. It didn't make me more adored. And I kept trying for 6 years because I was just like, I was convinced that there was an end goal. And maybe if I just continued to stay super lean, then I would receive all the love, I'd receive all the opportunities, etc., etc.
Right.
And something I missed out is my first major diet I started when I was in my mid-20s. I was 24. And it got a little bit out of control. I was eating very, very, very little. And then started incorporating cheat days, which then turned basically into all-out binges. And before long, I couldn't keep my binges to once a week. And I started binging like more often, and then it became every day. And there was a time where I remember I had eaten so much and I was just so scared of what was going to happen. The idea of gaining weight or gaining the weight that I'd lost back, and it felt like a failure, and I wouldn't be as cool, or I wouldn't be as popular, or, you know, maybe I'm not as hardcore. And I threw the food up that I'd eaten. I just went to the bathroom and I threw it up. And I remember feeling this great sense of relief. Like I felt lighter and clear and, okay, it's all going to be okay because I'm not going to get fat. But the thing is, as you can probably imagine, is that then turned into a habit. And over about a 12-year period, I would binge and purge multiple times a day, sometimes 10, 15 times a day. And that ended up wreaking havoc on my teeth, obviously, on my social life. It's when you have an eating disorder, it's really secretive. So you don't want anyone to know because you have a deep sense of shame about it. And, you know, people are looking at me saying, wow, you must just have just this amazing metabolism because I just can't believe you eat all this food. Because people would see me eat a bunch of food because I would be binging. And they would be like, I can't believe that you can do this. But I would throw my food up everywhere. I used to work in a restaurant. I would lock myself in the bathroom and I'd throw my food up at the restaurant. I have many times thought that I would be caught throwing up my food in public places. But the fear of gaining weight far outweighed my fear of being caught.
So, I'm sorry, how old were you when you started this?
I started when I was 24 or 25. So this is the thing. It's like we have this idea that eating disorders always start in our teenage years, right? And for a lot of us, it does. But it's also, there are many older adults that it happens to, and it usually stems, not usually, it always stems from something else. And I have had a complicated relationship with my father. Not that he, you know, he wasn't a perfect person, but he wasn't malicious or anything, but we had a complicated relationship. And I didn't see him a lot because we were in different countries. He was in Nigeria, I was in England. But what ended up happening is I had a deep sense of not being worthy. And this idea that if my own father, I interpreted it as my father didn't want me. That's not the truth. But in my head, that's what, you know, children don't, they don't always come to the best conclusions. If you don't tell them what's going on, they're going to make up a reason. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the real reason. So I interpreted my father not being around as me not being good enough for him, and he didn't love me enough. So that then at some point morphed into this subconscious belief that if my own father did not want me, no one would ever want me. And that meant that I was worthless. So while I wasn't necessarily going around all day, every day, you know, for most of us, this feeling of unworthiness isn't something that we're consciously thinking every day of our life when we're walking, making our way through the world, right? Because it's uncomfortable to really tune into the feelings of unworthiness and self-dislike. It's uncomfortable. And as humans, we really don't like to be uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable. So we'll do things to make sure that we don't feel that. So I hid my feelings of unworthiness under a lot of things. And sometimes it was, you know, believing that I was this fantastic catch and I would just go out and, you know, pull men and then play them, and that made me feel more powerful and better about myself. If I could have this one man who's telling me he loves me and I have no interest, that means that I'm someone important, right? So at some point that just morphed into trying to control my eating behaviors. And this is the thing, it's just like if you have to diet, and some people are not going to like this, and I'm just going to say it anyway, if you have to diet or aggressively work out in order to maintain your body shape, that's not your body shape. And that's okay. But the problem is that if this isn't an easy process for you, if your diet, if your workout regime is not an easy process for you, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to last for very long. You're not going to do it forever. And then that's where the problem lies, because then you start comparing this body that wasn't actually your body. You were just restrictive and, overtraining. That wasn't your body. And now you're attached to this body, and that's where your worth is. If I don't look like this, I'm not worth anything. If I don't look like this, people aren't going to think I'm important. If I don't look like this, I'm not worthy.
Do you think that a large part of that, though, that self-imagery comes from, at least for women, comes from a lack of relationship with their father?
That's a great question. I think it comes from a lot of things. I think that for women, for children, for all children, but especially women, our belief in ourselves and our worth comes from our parents, right? And they don't mean any harm, but they're just as traumatized as we are now. It's just traumatized people raising traumatized people, and that's just how it is. But the thing is, for women especially, we receive a lot of our idea of who we are from our fathers. So when our fathers aren't around, especially if we are straight, if we're heterosexual, then we often will then project our relationship with our father onto our relationship with the opposite sex, if that's what we're into. And that's where can lie the problem. So yes, I think a lot of these worthiness issues can stem from not, I don't want to say necessarily a strong relationship with your father, because sometimes it's not that. It's a basic need that wasn't met by that parent, whether intentionally or not. And usually it's not intentional. And then that is where the disconnect begins. Yeah.
Man, I just because I am a dad of soon to be 2 girls, 1 girl currently. Man, I really wrestle myself with how to be the best father for my daughters, because like you, I've been a strength coach for years and years and years. For 15 years, I'm still a strength coach. That hasn't changed. I don't train as much as I used to anymore, but just because I have a basketball club that's growing quickly and has taken more of my attention. But to your point, having worked with people that have had really big issues, it always does seem like it stems from parents, something that's happened in their childhood, which is really, it's really challenging, especially because I think we're just as much therapists as we are helping people get into shape, because it is really, you have to have this right to really get to where you want to be, and then the nutrition and the work, and all that is a byproduct. So for you, you're going into this space of you're 24 years old, you're an aspiring actress, you're doing all this stuff, and now you've run into this eating disorder where you're eating and then you're throwing up, and that went on for 12 years is a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. I have the root canals to prove it was a long time.
So did any of your friends or family, you were able to hide this from everyone?
I hid this from everyone. I was married for a short period. I got married when I was 24. And the first few weeks of my eating disorder, I think I had gone to England and came back. And for whatever reason, I told my husband, I don't believe he was my husband at the time. I don't remember. So I did tell him, but I really played it down. But then he started being extra vigilant. We went to a restaurant once and I ate a lot of chips and salsa, and then I went to the bathroom and threw it up. And when I came out of the bathroom, he said, "Did you throw your food up?" And I said, "No." And then he was like, let me smell your breath. So because he got more vigilant, I just got better at hiding it. You know, this is the thing, is that women with eating disorders, we can often turn into the best liars because we're fiercely protecting our secret. So I just got better at hiding it. I picked up rituals and habits that helped hide that. And, you know, who knows, along the way, there could be someone who, one of my friends who might have guessed that there was something up and never said anything. But yeah, I didn't share that with anyone. I just shared this within the last month. I just have started telling people in my life that this is what was happening, because it's been, you know, I feel secure now in my recovery and how I feel, and there's less shame about it. And if I can share it and help other people who have experienced it, or who, you know, who have recovered, or who aren't in recovery, if I can help them feel less shame about what's going on, right, that's a win for me.
So during this time, okay, so 12 years of an eating disorder. So this goes from 24 to 36. Mm-hmm. So now walk us through. You're an aspiring actress. You're at this point also doing fitness competitions.
Yes.
So that's crazy already by itself, with the fitness competitions and having an eating disorder. That's almost impossible to pull off. So now take us through that 12 years, work, personal, all those different things, and how you get through, because you've made it through to the other side. So let's walk through those 12 years.
That's a really, really great question, actually, talking about the 12 years, because the progression that I've made over the 12 years is clearly what can happen when all your energy and emotional energy isn't being taken up by food and your body and an eating disorder. Because I was acting when I first got to LA. I quit at some point, and I'm about to restart that venture again. But I worked in a restaurant from pretty much the time I moved to America until, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. I worked in restaurants. And at the time I told myself, well, you know, it's because I'm an actor and I need to be free to audition. But the truth is, I did very little to move my acting career forward, because I was so caught up in my eating disorder. I've had, you know, days where I've been left alone, either if I lived with a boyfriend, they were away, or if I had a roommate, they were away for a weekend. And I've had, you know, weekends where I basically haven't left the house apart from to get food. And I've spent almost the entire day until sometimes 3, 4 in the morning, eating and throwing up my food, eating and throwing up my food, eating and throwing up my food. And that takes up a lot of your emotional energy, and it takes up a lot of your time. I would skip on so many social outings because I wanted to binge. So in that time, that binging was that was my life. I only worked in restaurants because I didn't have the energy to look or be anything else but that. And it was the easiest thing for me to do. But I made up a story about it that was just a story. So I worked in restaurants a lot, and also that meant that I was around food a lot. So a lot of my work shifts would consist of me also eating a bunch of food and then throwing it up, and like bouncing tables between my purges. And now I think about it, it's actually kind of crazy. I'm not really sure how I managed that. But then actually what was the catalyst for my recovery was I got out of a relationship a couple of years ago, and maybe close to 3 years ago now. And I had to sit back and reflect on the relationship that I'd just been in. And I asked myself, who was the person who would remain in a relationship like that? And I didn't like the answer. So if I didn't like the answer, I didn't like who I was being, I knew that I needed to change something. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know where to start. I was in a very horrible place emotionally. I more openly hated myself than I maybe ever had. And I didn't feel like I couldn't see in that moment, like what else my life could be. Like it felt like I had nothing, I had no one, I was no one, I was nothing. So I then started doing some inner work, and that's when it started. I realized that, you know, self-love isn't just an Instagram caption, and like it's a full journey, and it's the answer to just about all of your issues. You know, I don't know how, I don't know what your higher power beliefs are or anything like that. I am not a religious person at all in any form. I don't see myself ever following a particular religion, but I do have a deep, deep belief in the existence of God. And I see the existence of God everywhere I look, within nature and people I see, the way my body works, everything. And I have realized that my preoccupation and one's preoccupation with their outer shell, which is really just a vehicle for our soul, you know, this whole thing is nothing. Yes, we should take care of it. That can mean different things for everyone, but it's just a shell. It says nothing about who I am and what I can do, you know. So I've realized that when we start picking at this shell and being mean about this shell, when we start trying to ration our food because we're trying to perfect the shell, for what exactly would be a good question. I've realized that shows a disconnect with source. And for me, source is God. For someone else, it might be the universe. It could be the mountains. It could be the oceans. It could be just the awareness of a power outside of themselves, the higher power. And that source is within you. So if you're disconnected to source, you're also disconnected to yourself. And that's where the problem lies, when you're disconnected with yourself. So when you're not connected with this person inside here, it's so much easier to say, well, I'm not worthy because I have big legs, or I'm not worthy because I don't have a big butt. Whatever it is, you know, that is that outside obsession. And I realized that there has to be more to life than this. And there is. And it just started with doing the inner work and learning about the subconscious mind. And then finally, I just decided that I was going to be done binging and I was done smoking. And smoking was just like as easy as that, because I put the work in to research the subconscious mind and then put rituals in place that helped me be present and move towards what I wanted and not what I didn't want. Binging, while I immediately significantly reduced it, it was a little bit more of a journey.
Okay.
Oh, and so now that's the end of it. So now I am, you know, a women's coach. I spend a lot of time coaching other women and helping them through the similar processes that I've been through myself. And I feel like I'm a completely different person. It's not about doing more with your life. Your worthiness is not in your action or what we do. We're like raised in this world where we are told that our value is in what a productive member of society we are, right? And I think that does us a disservice, because then we're all like, hustle, 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 because the person who hustles the most is the one who has the most value. The person who hustles the most is the most important. The person who hustles the most gets the prize. And that's not necessarily true. It's just like another thing to hide how you're feeling in here.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time coaching other women, like I said, and now I have my own business, which I couldn't, you know, a few years ago, that would never be my reality. But with all the women I coach, they also have similar trickle down stories where they start working on this gunk that makes them feel like they don't deserve to be happy, healthy. And not only do they stop binging or whatever problematic behavior that they're dealing with, they then end up, I have a client who, you know, got married. I have clients who got promotions right after they started working on all this stuff, people who have started their own business. There's so much life to be lived on the other side of this obsession with our outer shell.
So when you were doing the body competitions, how many fitness competitions did you do during this time?
Oh, gosh. I want to say maybe 14-ish.
So you did one a year for sure.
Yes, I would always do at least one a year. And then I had 1 year where I think I did 3, a couple of years here and there I do 2. Last year I also did 2. So now I want to say that I probably do about 2 every year.
And how did your training for those competitions go, having to fight through an eating disorder?
So short answer, it made things worse. So something you might notice is that in this world, in this society we have, when people are dealing with eating disorders, whether it's bulimia or anorexia or binge disorder, often what people recommend is a meal plan. And in my experience with myself and other people, that's some of the worst advice you could ever give someone with an eating disorder. It feels safe and secure to them. But the problem is when we say we can have this and nothing more and nothing less, that's where the problem starts. And that's why dieting is linked with increased binging. So the moment that I got into this frame of mind where there were now foods that were good or bad that I could have or I couldn't have, then it triggered more binging, because there's something, I don't know if you ever talk about like having a scarcity mindset. And when you have a scarcity mindset, when you think that resources are limited, you move into a hoarding behavior. So for example, when, like when coronavirus hit and everyone was freaking out, people started freaking out and they thought there wouldn't be enough supplies for everyone. Right. So what did they do? They started hoarding toilet paper. That's a common human reaction.
The silliest thing, by the way, if you're starving, you cannot eat toilet paper. The silliest thing to hoard is toilet paper. I'm going to give you a funny story really fast.
Yeah.
So my wife and I go to Costco once a month and we buy one of those 24-pack roll things of toilet paper.
Yeah. That
lasts a whole month, if not longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't actually have to get another 24, and maybe it's 48-pack, whatever. But the point of the story is we don't go shopping for toilet paper ever. We don't need to. We get it once every month or 2 months or whatever it is.
Yeah, that big thing lasts a long time.
It lasts a long time. So everything finally just kind of hits. And the week before, like, the storm went, I was at stores. I had been at 3 or 4 different grocery stores buying little items here and there as needed, which is pretty typical for me. Yeah. When my wife and I will go do our shopping on the weekend, but during the week, if we need a couple things here and there, because we'll basically shop and we'll have everything for a 2 to 3 week chunk, minus some fruits and vegetables, which we had an order previously to some organic thing. They drop off fruits and vegetables every week. Yeah. So we're pretty much good. So long story short, I'm at all these stores. There's plenty of toilet paper. Think nothing of it. Now, Saturday morning, I hear about how toilet paper is becoming a thing, and you're seeing people fighting in stores, like physically fighting over toilet paper. And my wife and I are just like, that's just silly. First of all, you shouldn't be fighting, but over toilet paper, come on, you can't eat it. And of course, we're hearing all the stories, and we have social media accounts, so we see the different things going on. Anyways, Sunday night hits. We have not shopped. We stayed away we wanted nothing to do with the craziness.
Yeah.
We have a bathroom upstairs here. We have 2 bathrooms upstairs and 1 downstairs. So I go downstairs to get a toilet paper. We're out upstairs. So I go and we have it all in our little storage thing downstairs, storage closet. Open up, there's nothing in there. Well, usually what will happen is my wife, when there's just like 10 to 12 rolls left, she puts them in the downstairs bathroom and kind of stacks them all up and whatever. So I go down in the bathroom and there's 1 roll. So I grab the 1 roll, I come upstairs and ask my wife, I'm like, hey babe, I can't find any of the toilet paper. Where is it? She's like, oh, it should be downstairs in the storage thing. It's not there. She's like, well, then the rest of it's in the bathroom downstairs. I was like, well, there was 1 roll. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah.
What?
And she's like, no. And I was like, yeah. So we look through the whole house, go in the garage. We have no toilet paper. We have 1 roll. And at the time, we have another woman living with us. So there's 3 women in my house. My wife, the woman living with us is my daughter, and there's me. And there's 1 roll of toilet paper. And I know how that's going to go. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just go to the stores. It's Sunday night. The craziness has probably died down. I went to 4 stores within a mile radius of where I live. No toilet paper, no paper towels, no wipes, no nothing.
Wow.
So I come home and I'm like, well, there's no toilet paper. So I went on my Facebook, and I just put a comment about it might have been my Instagram. Anyways, I just basically made a comment about wow, you can't eat toilet paper, and I'm the foolish one for making fun of people, and now I don't have any. And one of my buddies was like, bro, me and my wife have a ton, if you need some, let me know. And I was like, all right. So he comes to trans me at the gym the next day. He brought me a little 6-pack. I was like, thank you. That'll be perfect. Take the 6-pack home. And at the time, I did own a physical gym. Yeah. And we have a crazy amount of toilet paper there all the time. So I grabbed like 4 or 5 rolls from my gym too, and I was like, took that home. So I had like, at this point I've got like 10 to 12 rolls now. So we're good. So I put all the rolls in the house. The coronavirus really escalates and takes off and everything gets shut down. Well, my gym gets shut down. Long story short, we actually had to vacate the building because the master lease holder, we were sublease tenants, abandoned his lease. So now we have to sell all of our equipment, get rid of everything. And so we'll get our thing going again here, but we're going to have to rent space from an existing gym, it looks like, for a little while. But anyways, while that's all happening, nobody can train at the gym anymore anyways because all gym businesses have been closed.
Yeah.
I kid you not. You know those big industrial rolls of toilet paper?
Yeah.
Well, we have those because we have all these stalls for women and men.
Yeah.
And those industrial rolls go into those things. And then we have single rolls just as a needed thing. I grabbed every industrial roll I had and took them home. It's been like, 3.5, maybe 4 months. I still have these rolls at the house, these industrial rolls, and we use them. But we had so many of them, it literally, like, we had to stack them in the corner in our hallway, and it, like, it was substantial height. So the whole toilet paper thing was a real struggle for a while, but I'm glad I had all that at my gym because I just brought it home, and we've been good ever since.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The amount of stories about no toilet paper was crazy. And you know what? It's easy to judge those people who freaked out and hoarded the toilet paper, but they were scared, and they were scared that there would not be enough. And when we think it's not going to be enough, that's how we react. It's a human.
100%. Yeah. You're 100% right. It is funny. I get it. It's tough. It's tough. And more to the point that you're making before my little tangent story here with the toilet paper, which is just that scarcity mindset, and I mean, what do you think percentage-wise people that have that type of mindset as opposed to people that have the more driven and just like a fruitful mindset?
So I don't believe that driven and fruitful are necessarily have to go hand in hand. I think that we can live from a scarcity mindset and be very driven because we're scared that there won't be enough and we got to get ahead of everyone else.
Sure.
I think that the people who live with an abundance mindset and believe that fruitful, as you said, who believe that there's plenty and there'll always be room for them, I believe that they are in very small minority of people.
Yeah.
But that, again, that's not their fault. I believe that that's how we're raised, to believe that there are limited resources and there's limited room for you. And if you don't get ahead of other people, you're going to be left behind. So that's how we're raised.
And that's a whole nother podcast for another day, mindset, because mindset is tricky. And like you said, I fully agree with what you said, though. But that's definitely a whole nother. So that's another hour and some change for sure.
Yes.
But I do want to circle back here with you. So you've done the.
Hi,
Princess. Hold on. We're gonna
oh my gosh.
quick. So moving into and then moving away from mindset and back into, you're doing these fitness competitions. You're getting through them while you're doing. For those of you that can hear my daughter in the background, if she's yelling. So you're going through these, you're battling with an eating disorder. Obviously, these body competitions, these fitness competitions, and these physique competitions that you're doing, they're very, very driven on how you physically look. And so how do you prepare? How did you do? Did you win any of these competitions?
I have won most of my competitions. Which is like part of the problem.
Okay.
I think I have, out of the 14-ish, I'd have to work that out, maybe like around 14 competitions, maybe more. I have not won 2, I believe.
So how do you manage to do that? Because look, I train people for fitness competitions. To be able to pull off winning while battling with an eating disorder is incredibly challenging.
I agree.
Thanks, honey. your mom will be there. That's okay. Thanks, princess. Yeah, honey. Hold on one second.
Yeah, please, it's okay.
All right, so now that my daughter is done distracting us, so
She was a welcome distraction, by the way. She's very cute.
she's an angel. So you're going through these body competitions. You're winning these competitions. You're doing it with an eating disorder. Just take us through that. Like, how did you manage? Because that's a management thing. You're managing an eating disorder while your training regimen, which is already grueling, and I mean, not having calories and the calorie reduction must have not been.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was still hard. Was it hard to reduce calories because you're still struggling with the eating disorder as well?
Yes, it absolutely was. So first of all, what I would say is I think that the amount of people competing with eating disorders would surprise you. I think that those of us who have eating disorders are attracted to competing because it makes our eating disorder okay. So we think that a lot of people don't have eating disorders, but, you know, take a look at most of your competitors. We have these glorified bingers, right? Where we have been so good on our diet all week, and then we'll have this one day where they'll go on an all-out binge, and it's seen as okay. But, you know, that's called disordered eating. So we tend to fall on various places on that scale of like very, very, very disordered, like me, bulimia, to some lightly disordered behavior. So it was very difficult because when you're dealing with restrictions, scarcity mindset, you want to, if you eat one small thing that you're not supposed to eat, then you want to just eat everything and just start. This is the last time I'm going to be able to eat this because I have a competition coming up and I'm never going to cheat again. So now I'm going to eat every single thing I possibly can eat because I'm never going to do it again.
Right.
But then the next day I have the same, I slip up. I'm never, ever going to do this again. So it was tough for sure because it turned into, I would purge a lot more when I was prepping for a show. And then to balance out all my binges, I would do extra cardio. So it was basically just a very harsh binge restrict cycle. That was my prep, where I would completely be out of control. And then the next day I would try and starve myself and run for 2 hours to make up for it. And that was pretty much, I was that person who was doing 2 hours of cardio in the last, month or so, because I was also binging in that time, and that I needed to find a way to offset that.
Well, you, my dear, you're an inspiration for sure. It's crazy. And I'm glad that I got to learn about your journey a little bit. I mean, what a journey it's been. So where are you at now? What are you doing? How can people follow your journey and connect with you if they want to?
Okay, so where I am now, and I still have, I think I still have some desire left to compete. I'm not sure how prepping for a show will look, but I'm sure I will adventure out, maybe even this year. And if I feel the familiar, like it's tough to maintain this without getting disordered, then I just won't do it because it's not worth it to me. But where am I now? So I spend most of my time either training or coaching. I prefer coaching. I'm not as interested in showing people how to get abs anymore. That's not really where my interests lie. And I know how problematic that journey can get. So instead, my focus and my passion is in reminding women how worthy they are and helping them discover that for themselves. It's not just about me telling them. They suddenly, on a client call last week, my client said, I have never felt this good in my body before. And that's my goal, because we're supposed to feel good in our body. That's normal. Like this idea that we're supposed to be hungry and it's supposed to be hard and you're supposed to work really hard for this sack here. It's not true. So I spend most of my time doing that. You can find me on Instagram. I spend a decent amount of time on Instagram, at least definitely a lot of time in my stories. I maybe post a few times a week, not every day.
All right, Instagram.
My Instagram is too legit and fit _Chris. and that's TOO, legit, LEGIT, and fit, ANDFIT, _ Chris, CHRIS.
Well, I love that. I think that that's so important. I always tell my friends and family and girls in my, women, females in my world, that they're beautiful, not just outwardly, but inwardly. And I'm always trying to help build up women and their confidence and their self-esteem, and knowing that they have intrinsic value and they have worth. But I also recognize I am a male, and that can be challenging. The people that obviously I have a relationship with know that I mean it out of just pure love. I love them. I think they're beautiful. I think they're amazing. Inwardly they're beautiful, outwardly that kind of stuff. But I think it's more important for women to tell women. I hate it when like my female clients or my wife or a female friend say, "Oh man, look at that woman. She's so beautiful." I'm like, go tell her. Go tell her. I hate when my wife will be like, she'll come in the gym to drop something off for me or help me out something quickly. And then she'll tell me later that night, she'll be like, "Oh, Val is so gorgeous." I'm like, text her. Just tell her. Because then I'll see Val, I'll be like, my wife, when she came in the other day, or, she just said, "You're so gorgeous." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." It's different. And I'm like, look, so I just tell them now. And I've always told my wife, like, I got to a spot where I was like, you need to tell people what you think when it's women 100% of the time. Because then people see my wife and they're like, "Oh, she's so gorgeous." She is. But I tell them like, "Oh, Christine and Sarah and Tegan all saw you and they all just thought you were so beautiful when you were leaving the gym this morning." And she was like, "Yeah, whatever." And because it's coming from me, And so now I tell them too, I'm like, "Guys, just send her a text, call her, tell her yourself, send her an Instagram message. I don't care. Leave me out of the equation," because it's so much better for women to tell women how beautiful they are, how good they look, all that stuff. And I feel it's weird for me because I'm always wondering, like, why don't you tell each other that? Like, if you feel that way, why wouldn't you tell each other that? Like, if I see a guy that's a good looking guy and he's like got, his little whatever, he's got his little, let's say a suit, or he's wearing whatever, right? He looks at, I'll go, "Hey man, I love the look today. You're looking good, man." Like, I have no problem doing it, right? And guys do the same thing. And it's also weird because, like, for us as men, for the most part, or males maybe, we're just so laid back and chill and stuff. And so it's like really easy for us to go give each other compliments. And it's not like we're not threatened by each other, so to speak. I don't feel threatened by guys. And I would have to say that most of my sphere of influence and people in my world, acquaintances, friends, family, all that stuff, in the male world are in the same boat. Like, they don't feel threatened by other guys ever. It's weird. But for women, it's the complete opposite in my experience. And it's not for everybody. It's just a generalization. So if you're not part of that generalization, please forgive me. I mean it in a generalized format, not everybody. However, in my world, I have all sisters, daughters, wife. Women run my world. I am around women 24/7, 365. I have all women in good positions in my companies. My assistants are women. So I hear from women all the time. And I would say that it's a pretty shared viewpoint that I've gotten in my conversations with them as well.
Absolutely. So I think that is a large experience for women. Of course, it's also men also experience the same thing. But women are often, men talk a lot, in my experience, about women being threatened by each other or women being bitchy and talking shit about each other. The thing to understand is, I'm not excusing it, but this is the way women have been raised, to see each other as competition, to believe that if one woman is beautiful, that means you're not beautiful. And it's not, everything that exists in this world, it's not just one person or one group. It's perpetuated by all of us. We're all one. So every problem that we have on this world, it's because of all of us, not just one of us. Right. So men are also guilty of perpetuating this, women are your competition, whether it also in the media and in life. I mean, it's just, a natural part of our life. We see it so much and we think it's normal. Like people posting up a picture of two women next to each other. Which one looks better? Who wore this outfit better? Always putting women in competition with each other. That's not just... Sorry?
I didn't think of it that way. That's
yeah.
Really...
It's just, that's the way we've been socialized. That's the way we've been raised. That's what we see on TV. You know, we watch movies and there's a girl who's hot and then she'll be mean to the girl who's not. And then we're like, oh, okay, that's the way, that's how we're supposed to.
Let me ask you this then. What can men, right? And again, there's a distinction between males and men, guys and men. And I've had a couple podcasts now that I've gotten into that. But what can, I'm going to say, men or guys, people that want to continue to love women the appropriate way and empower women the appropriate way and continue to build women the appropriate way, to help giving them confidence and stuff and help with the not fighting. You know, what are things that, what are some tips that, like, that even for myself, like what can I be doing to make things better?
So I would say one thing is to understand that it's not your job to save anyone, and women are completely capable of saving themselves. And when you're talking about, for men, I would just be mindful of how you speak about women. So women, we've also, part of the issue is we've been raised to believe that it's an achievement to find a man and to marry a man and then have children with a man and then keep a man. You know, all of those are achievements. And if you can't do that, there's something wrong with you. Oh, look at her, she can't keep a man. Oh, look at her, she's this age and she's still not married. So men are seen in this world as the prize, and women, we have to like compete with other women in order to win the prize.
Okay.
So part of that would be not, so sometimes men will talk down to women, right? And not all men, and this is just an example, let's say they talk down to a woman or say, you know, this woman's a hoe because she did this. And then women sometimes, they're called the pick-me women, they are led to believe that the man is the prize. So it feels unsafe to be attacked by a man because that's the prize. So in order to feel safer, we will then pit ourselves, we'll unite ourselves with a man. So they'll say something derogatory about a woman, and so many women will speak and be like, yeah, you're right, pick me, basically. So I'm on your side, I'll be safe because I win the prize, and then we're all going to shit on the person you're shitting on. So I would say, be mindful about how you're speaking about women. And listen, of course we all have issues and all of that, and things may come up, but we need to be mindful about the way we're speaking about women, especially as men. And the thing to remember is that I'm not saying that it's men's fault. It's just this cycle. Because a lot of the time...
No, I'm not blaming males either.
Yeah,
just
I want to make sure.
For those of us that do really care and love and respect women and females and want to continue to invest positively into the female community, which is why I'm doing these podcasts with really a lot of women, is to help move the ball forward. And women like yourself, who is making such positive impacts in other women's lives.
Thank you.
To be able to hopefully expose you to a new world of women and a new world of women that don't know who you are to you.
Yeah.
You know, connectivity is so important, but like you say, you know, us building each other up.
Yes, exactly.
Is so important too, right? And
it's really important. And it needs to be a habit to speak life into people. That needs to be like a habit. You know, like you said about giving people compliments. I give people compliments all the time. And often you can see how people are not accustomed to receiving compliments. And they'll always just try and like deflate, like, no, oh no, not me. Or, oh, this whole thing. Oh no, I look fat today. Oh no, I have a zit. Just say thank you. Accept it.
I tell my wife that all the time. All the time. Yes.
And I will say that
and it's okay to accept compliments. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
No. But
I like compliments. I don't get them very often, but I like them when I get them.
Listen, you don't want to live and die by the word, right? But it's nice to receive. It's nice to receive compliments.
Most definitely.
Part of it, if you think about, there are just we get so many messages that we're unaware of. So one of my favorite, the subconscious mind is one of my favorite topics. So your subconscious mind, right, can receive 20 million bits of information per second. Your conscious mind receives 40 bits of information per second. So your subconscious mind is 500,000 times, it takes 500,000 times more bits of information than your conscious mind. So what that means is when you're moving around the world, you're receiving a lot more information than you're consciously aware of. So for example, when you're continually as a child watching movies, certain movies that, you know, the most beautiful woman is the woman who doesn't know she's beautiful, right? The most fun women are the ones who are always putting themselves down, but like in a cute way. Oh no, not me. Or, you know, I'm the worst. I am so goofy. I can't walk. I'm so unsexy. We're always putting themselves down, but it's supposed to be funny. So yeah, in that conscious moment, we're looking at that and we're laughing, but we're also receiving these subliminals that if you want to be adored, if you want to be seen as beautiful, you need to know that you're not beautiful, kind of thing, you know? It's just this weird, we have this weird idea of what we want females to be, and it's ridiculous. It's okay to know that you're expected.
We're gonna have to have another one of these later because this is good, and this is a whole nother thing too. But I really do appreciate you so much being here, and again, just thank you so much for letting us in on what is a really challenging journey that you've overcome now. I don't want to misuse this word, but it's such a beautiful thing to see how you flourish now, having come through so many challenges. And, you know, I know people who have gone through different disorders and stuff, and they don't always come out on the other end okay. You know, unfortunately, some of those people moved on to the next life, and I know it's a really big challenge. So thank you. And I also know it's a challenge to tell people about it, and especially in a public forum like this. So I really just appreciate you willing to even speak to me and being vulnerable on this. That's such a challenging thing, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If there's anyone else who's also dealing with it, my DMs are always open. Of course, I'm not going to spend 24 hours a day coaching you for free, but please do reach out if you are not feeling good about where you are right now.
Well, we'll definitely include all your information on here too. And thank you so much. And for those of you who are listening today, thank you for joining us today. You're on my podcast, Get It. This is Stephen Basita. We're on the Social Nostra Network. And again, thank you so much, Christine. We appreciate you. And we'll see you guys.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.